Welcome to Bullish and Beyond. It's Beery the Bull. I'm your AI co-host. Join myself, Brian the MacMan, and JT Knows Things while we dive deep into the world of stocks, crypto, and how to live a bullish life. It's time to get bullish, and there's no better place to start than right here. Let's dive in.
Hey everyone, we're here with another amazing episode of Bullish and Beyond.
Let's go.
And if you are tuning in on our YouTube or any of our shorts, you're going to see JT as now Crypto Jesus.
Crypto Jesus here, boys.
We would love to hear what everyone thinks of his new look.
Yeah, we'd love the feedback. This is Bitcoin over 100,000 JT. You guys aren't ready for this guy. He's feeling good.
All right, the stocks and the Bitcoin are soaring. The crypto den is green. My background's green. My stock feed, it's all green. All green, everyone.
All green.
It is popping. And the reason it's popping today is because Trump made a trade deal with the UK. The great trade deal. And the market loves certainty. And this is a tiny, tiny, tiny bit of certainty. I can't believe it's up this much.
I honestly didn't hear about that. You're going to have to tell me about that. He actually closed the deal with Europe?
Yeah, they finally inked the deal with the UK only.
Okay.
And supposed to be increasing some of our exports there. But, one country out of hundreds and the market's this bullish leads me to believe there's a lot more bullish excitement to come when they ink some deals with some other countries like China.
Yeah. If the China deal goes well, I feel like it will be off to the races for a little bit. The news coverage, the sentiment, it's going to turn bullish. It'll kind of be fervorish if I had to guess.
I'm feeling that fever coming. I mean, I could see the NASDAQ running 10% in 2 days after they make a deal with China.
How crazy is that? If the NASDAQ goes up like that, I reckon Bitcoin will reach new all-time highs.
I'm ready.
And then my thesis could be reversed. We talked about it on the last podcast before Amanda. I was right. It was at 84 when we did that. It dropped down to 74, and then we had the rebound, which I've been correct. But if we break 108,
it exploded.
It exploded. I knew there was going to be a rebound, and I figured we're getting some kind of big deflationary event sometime this year. I really do believe that. But if we break 108, I would be wrong. My thesis would be wrong. We're in price discovery mode, and I feel like we could go higher. It would be pretty crazy.
I mean, it feels like a lot of that bearish sentiment, and kind of with the trade issues and stuff like that, brought the prices down a lot. It, hit a floor, if you could say, and we bounced up from there. It doesn't seem like it's going to go back down unless there's some other big negative event. If we keep doing trade deals over time, I think the market's going to keep going up.
Yeah. My biggest thing that I watch is like global M2 supply, which is like basically the liquidity of markets, right? Complete, like all of them aggregate in one chart. And really the only thing that brings risk assets up is that M2 going up. People feel when cash is flowing freely, people are risk on, right? That's a simple way to
absolutely
it, right? People are risk on. When that chart is going down, typically people are more risk off because the economies globally are shrinking when that chart goes down. That's like a feeling of uncertainty and things like that. And we've been having M2 compress the past 6 months or so. And for the first time, it's making newer highs. I think we're seeing quantitative easing out of Asia. China's in serious trouble. They don't have a choice. And like I was just watching.
They're constantly spending.
Dude, they're not paying their people. Like
I didn't know about that.
They're burning factories right now all across China. They're having serious civil unrest. Their GDP's down like 30-something%. Right? They're in a.
That's not making the news.
No.
Where do you get your China news?
Twitter, from macro analysts that I trust. Raoul Paul specifically, like that guy. I would say top 25 best macro investors in history. It's not many people that can make billions of dollars being a macro investor.
Yeah.
The interesting thing about macro investors are they have an idea, they have a thesis of the globe or the economy, and then they will trade to represent that thesis, and it's usually one trade at a time. So they'll
Yeah,
go big on.
stick with some big swing trades.
Yeah, well, it's like, no, I think oil supply is going to increase, so I'm going to short oil 60% of my portfolio, right?
So you better be
And
right.
yeah, that's a macro.
No
That's a macro.
diversification.
Yeah, like it's just crazy stuff usually. Or they're just macro researchers and they have a diversified portfolio. And I'm more like that. But Raoul Paul's a G at what he does. And I get a lot of information from him. I listen to his podcast religiously. He talks about all the macro data all the time.
Nice.
His group, Real Vision, they have all this data like in a nice dashboard that he uses to make decisions for his money and his fund. And he's actually in crypto now because through his analysis in 2014, he had realized everything's kind of correlated. Like literally, if you were to zoom out, everything's correlated to just a few things.
When in doubt, zoom out. Your trademark.
Yeah, and he was just like, I think the most risk-adjusted return is actually asymmetrical risk. So I'm just going to stick to the asset class that has the most to gain from this correlation, meaning this global M2 supply. He's found this correlation over time. So he's just like, I want to go all in on crypto. And he's done very well. Obviously, he's retired now, just making content. So, he did very well. But yeah, I mainly get all of my macro news from that guy. And then some of the other fund managers that, are in his group and his people, that he trusts. But it's it's just the Real Vision community that you can get into from his podcast.
So knowing that China, I mean, you're saying the GDP is negative 30%. If we wanted to invest in some, Chinese stocks, there's obviously a lot of risk because the reporting and stuff is not as good as, U.S. reporting. But, there's a couple companies out there that are just killing it. And I've not pulled the trigger on investing in them.
Yeah.
But, I don't know if I should trust them or not. Does Rob Paul talk about that?
No, he does not. And I want to make a slight alteration. It's not GDP. I misspoke. It's the index. So like the SPY, their equivalent, and I'm forgetting.
Got it.
Is down.
Okay.
30%. That's my bad. So their industries, their
the Shanghai
largest
index.
500. There you go. Thank you. That is
okay.
Yeah, I wanted to be clear. And then Rubio, I honestly don't know.
I thought that
I don't hear him
going
talk
up
about
because they keep spending so much money.
That's the
endless,
that's the QE.
endless printing.
That's the quantitative easing I'm
Yeah.
talking about. That M2 going up, that just basically means people are dropping rates. Central banks are loosening their economies globally, right? So
Yeah.
that chart watches all of the central banks' issuance, and that's why I like that chart so much. And that is actually trending up, and I do think it is China trying to deal with all of these issues. So I feel like they have to come to the table, but they also have to remain this image of stability, because if they lose that, they will lose investment.
That'll topple their whole country.
There's going to be a capital flight, and
Yeah.
then there's going to be civil unrest and probably some form of revolution. I don't know, but there are some provinces that have not been paid for 6 months. This is communism, so
That's crazy.
the government runs all the factories.
I mean, you can't just not pay your people forever. They're gonna rise up.
Especially if they're getting paid, $4 an hour or whatever it is. So,
well, even if they're not getting paid, I am so impressed with some of the infrastructure they have built in China. It is beyond anything that we have over here.
I know, it's crazy. I was watching this stupid clip of this streamer Speed. He was visiting China. He thought that he was on the ground floor, and then he looked down and he was on the 27th floor. It's like a city on a city, right?
Oh my God.
Trains and metros go through buildings there. Like
I have seen that. Yeah.
Yeah, dude. You could live on floor 88 and then go down to floor 27 and have an entire city, and then go down to the ground floor for another city.
It's crazy.
Yeah.
We actually have a train in Miami going through a building that I saw the other day. The tri-rail down there. But I mean, what you're talking about, the city on the city, it's almost like Jetsons. It's like, there's just these layers in the sky. I mean,
Yes.
that's kind of how I see the future, and it makes sense. I mean, the ground is limited,
Hmm.
surface area is limited on this earth, but the sky is, virtually forever. I mean, you got to go up 100,000 feet to even get close to the top of the atmosphere. So we can go up a lot higher than we currently are.
Yeah, and we could also do some cave dwelling. We could go down.
Yeah, yeah, there you go. I
You
like
know,
it. Some good
Elon thinks
geothermal
that
down there.
theoretically we could burrow down a couple miles if we wanted to and just build out stuff.
So pivoting away from China, let's talk a little bit more about what's going on in the U.S. and Bitcoin, because you are the Bitcoin expert today. You're Bitcoin crypto Jesus. I would love to hear what is actually driving this massive run from 74 to 101.
Yeah, 25% 2 weeks
That's
is crazy.
insane.
Yeah, on $1 trillion asset, that's pretty crazy. Um, Honestly, I think it could be in part the UK coming to the table. Um, it's more certainty in the market, but I also believe rate cuts coming in. I do think Powell. I didn't get a chance.
He
Did
did
you see
not
what
cut
the
yesterday.
he did
Even
not cut yesterday?
even Steven yesterday.
Dude, I'm glad I asked because I thought that he would have cut rates for.
He's
If he
trying to
didn't even
wait.
cut rates,
He's trying to wait for the 90-day trade delay
thanks.
to either expire or something to happen with that. That was kind of the logic behind it from what I saw.
Well, what I can tell you is basically we have more. Our order book is starting to get balanced. If I go look at my indicators that basically follow the order books, we're dead even, and
On
from my
supply and demand.
experience, yeah, like right here, we had a 23% deficit in 3 month sells juxtaposed to 14-month buys. So imagine that. It's hundreds of billions net deficit of sells. And they turned around. It's right at zero right now. We're still down
Okay.
overall on 14 months, but in the last 3 months, we caught up to the previous buys. So I'm sorry, the
And
previous
and
sells.
this week must
So
be heavy on the positive side, I'm guessing.
yeah. I mean, I think if we close above 105 on the week, we're going to print a golden cross, is what it's looking like, and those typically only happen once or twice a year, and they're usually pretty crazy. This could be the last leg of the
And
bull
for everyone that
market.
doesn't know what a golden cross is, how about you give him a download?
Yeah. So it's in the MACD and the stochastic. It's indicators. I don't want to get too deep, but basically, there's these two lines, and they represent two times. So there's 14-month and the 3 month, or you can set the parameters to what you want. I like those two, and the blue line on bottom means that's the short line. That's the 3 month. In the past 3 months, we've sold more than we've bought. And
So the
then the
3 month
other
line
lines,
crosses the other 12-month line, means that we are now in high demand curve.
there you go, high demand. And when those cross up, it's rare where they are a false signal from a macro, like big picture perspective, because I do it on the weekly, the 3 week, and the monthly is how
Yeah.
I look at them. And all of those things are turning very bullish, but they have not confirmed yet. So, I mean, this could be a temporary puff of hot air. But if we close above 105, 110, I feel like we're going to be up to 135, 140. That's the next fib level,
So it feels like people
135,
are kind of
6.
waiting on the sidelines. There was so much uncertainty this last month, and we didn't know what was going to happen in the market, crypto, everything else. So it's like I think people are probably putting more money into work right now that they're
Yeah.
seeing. I mean, I feel more bullish just with having one trade deal done, even though there's 200 to go. But it's an indicator that we will get certainty, we will get more answers on the tariffs, and hopefully not have these massive tariffs, hurting the economy to come.
Yeah, I totally agree. I saw and I've not looked into this, but I would love to know if you've heard anything about this. Our ports and it's actually in your part of town in Florida. It shows on
Port of
this
Miami and
satellite
Lauderdale
map
are packed.
they're packed.
Or no, in general. I mean, I don't know about today, but I mean, yeah,
Yeah,
it's a
yeah.
lot
In
going on down
general,
there.
Okay, that's good. I saw this satellite feed of basically all of the ships that are registered, and their location, and it showed a crazy amount of ships out in the ocean, like waiting to come in and deliver goods.
They
And
are.
I was
I
just
have
thinking,
heard of a lot of companies on their earnings calls saying that they're kind of delaying some of these shipments. I think it was Target. Maybe I was listening to something about delaying like the toys. Like normally they make a big buy of toys for Christmas, even though it's months and months off. They still have a lot of logistics to do for that. But I think they're delaying some of that because they're like, oh, we don't want to pay some huge tariff if we can just wait 60 days and pay zero tariff or something.
yeah,
I didn't know the ships were waiting in the water. No, that's interesting.
yeah, and I thought it brought up, a concern of, really just having unemployment, which would affect jobs, which would then affect a rate cut. Like even for a little bit, if you have harbors laying people off, then you don't have drivers that are driving trucks to
It'll
deliver the loads
trickle
or
down effect
whatever.
for sure. The
Yeah,
labor the
and
labor post was up that they announced the other day. There was 177,000 new jobs or something like that.
well, that's great. That's
So
good.
the jobs were
Healthy
still up,
starts.
and I think that was one of Powell's arguments when he said he didn't want to cut the rates. He goes, "It's not a job problem.
Yeah,
Yes, inflation is mostly under control. Might be the wrong word, but it's kind of where they thought it would be."
yeah.
Um, So yeah, the job's up. They didn't have a reason to cut.
And just so folks know, the reason why that matters for jobs, basically business owners, if they can get debt cheaper, so rates are lower, they're way more willing to take risks by hiring people for a new project or a new thing. And
Absolutely.
That's how Powell controls that lever. That's what we're talking about. Yeah, and you're absolutely
And
right.
in
Jobs
general,
are up. Then
companies are pulling back. I mean, from these projects. I mean, Microsoft, put on hold or canceled some big data centers. Lots of people are holding back on just big infrastructure and spend that they didn't know what was going to happen. Can't blame
yeah,
them.
you can't. I mean, I still feel the world is very uncertain. If
I
we
feel
go
that way
out of
too.
if we go out of economics, brother, geopolitically, this is the scariest stuff that we could be witnessing. I mean, I'm probably too deep into that stuff because I feel like I have a responsibility to be, but India, Pakistan, they're fighting now. They're nuclear powers. You got Russia bombing Kiev like civilians,
Constantly.
right? Like, dude, it's getting very uncomfortable. Israel and Iran, right? China and Taiwan, NATO versus America because Trump wants to leave NATO, the EU picking sides in NATO. Who's going to go with Trump and Russia? Versus the alternative, like possibly breaking up BRICS by
That is
partnering with
scary.
Russia. All of this is so uncertain, and I feel like global tensions are the highest they've been since the 40s. Um, it's just uncertain. I'm totally fine having for an
At the
investment
same
strategy,
time,
having
I feel
cash
like it's
on
going
the
to play
side.
out well, just from the
You
standpoint
think?
that the world needs each other. Like, we can't be doing global business, especially countries like China. If we do have this massive trade war or a actual war, which I really hope we don't get to that point, it
Yeah.
would tank both of our economies to some extent. I think China would get it way worse with the tariffs being on or any
Oh,
actual war. I don't think they almost can't afford to have the war. I think we're all incentivized not to get to war, and that's one of the reasons that the world has been, more civilized, less war prone in the last 30 years is that we're just working together so much on global trade that people don't want to go to war. We want to prosper, I think.
yeah. We've gotten in bed with each other, very well, very deep. I I agree with that. I just worry about the egos, and there have been serious offenses
All
by
these leaders
NATO.
have such big egos. It is
It's
wild.
crazy. It's crazy.
I
Like
mean,
you're
they pop.
absolutely right, but humans are crazy, man. Like,
Yeah.
humans can be crazy. And, like, I don't have a lot of faith in Xi Jinping. I'm going to mess up his name, but, the China leader. I don't have a lot of faith in Putin. I think he is one of the best, like, liars, deceivers. Like, he is KGB people. Like, he is he's that guy. He has been a ruler of Russia for like 30 years. He's a scary guy. Like, Russians are not easy people to rule. I reckon. Like they're crazy when on UFC at least, and just keeping them in check. So like, I don't know, man. I agree with you. It's just like
This is
all it
also
takes is
the positive bullishness in me. I want that so bad
yes,
that
I want that.
I'm
Yeah,
almost not even willing to accept the downside. I'm going to keep staying bullish. That is my bullishness.
yeah. I like it. I like it. But
All
if
right,
you zoom out, it'll be fine. If it happens, just so people know, it'll be one of the best opportunities to buy stuff. Like, could you imagine Palantir on the tail end? I mean, the long tail
insane.
after the shock. Imagine that buying opportunity right there. It's an awful thing, but it is my job.
All right, speaking of
Like, you could-
Palantir, it is
yeah.
wild. It's up
Is it ripping?
45% in a month.
Oh, dude, those are crypto numbers.
It's
Those
crazy.
are crypto numbers. Yeah.
And you were asking me for a friend the other day where to put some money in a AI stock that's a little bit of a long shot.
Yeah.
So just to clarify, Palantir has the worst PE ratio in the NASDAQ 100. That means it has the highest price compared to earnings of any of the large tech companies.
Yeah.
However, it also has one of the most potential of any of the tech companies, which is why it's priced where it is. So they had earnings the other day. The earnings were awesome, but they weren't enough to keep that, absolutely lofted price target. So, I mean, the stock came down at about 10%. But then, today it's up 10% again. So it's highly volatile. But long term, I do think it's going to get to where it needs to be. It has the right trajectory. They're working with the Army on some insane trucks they deploy to have these off-site mobile command centers. They're doing all the right things to continue their growth, and they're growing like crazy. And it's kind of like going back to like cybersecurity, like before anyone really had it. If you bought those companies back then, they've taken off since. But this almost feels like that. Like not enough companies that probably have this type of AI infrastructure spending going on for their security, but they're going to need it going forward. So it seems like it's almost inevitable this company's going to keep growing by leaps and bounds. At least that's my viewpoint. It's not an official recommendation. But I am invested in Palantir, and I think it's going to do awesome.
Yeah, I do too. I wouldn't bet against Peter Thiel. I just wouldn't.
He's an individual you not want to bet against. I would agree. He
Yeah,
he only puts his money in winning companies. I mean, he might have made a bad investment in his life, but not at this scale.
No, he just doesn't lose. I highly recommend that 0 to 1 book. It's one of your shortest.
It's a quick read, couple hundred pages. Of note, though, the insiders, including Peter Thiel and maybe the CEO or the president, whatever, have been selling some shares. But I think a lot of times people read too much into this. I mean, I follow Apple religiously. And when these officers sell their shares, it's like, oh my God, they just sold $50 million of shares, and it's like, well, yeah, the reason is that they got shares gifted to them by the company for hitting price targets. They physically have to sell just to pay their taxes, and the articles never mention that.
Yeah, most of the time they're doing that is a money thing. Like they can't live their life. Like if they want to go buy a $30 million apartment, like they can't just, do that. Like, or they take a loan on it, like they can do whatever they want. It's their stock.
Oh, speaking of that, I read in particular that the Palantir officers are not allowed to loan out their shares against buying property or any other investments. Wow. But a lot of companies are. Like Elon Musk can pledge Tesla shares to do anything he wants in his life. And I think most companies are set up that you can pledge shares. I don't know why or why not. But I did know that Palantir you could not. So that is the reason. Like you said, if I'm going to go buy a property, you gotta get some cash.
Yeah. I'll tell you who's really good at pledging shares and using leverage. Michael Saylor, dude.
Yes, MicroStrategy.
Strategy
dude.
now.
Michael Saylor. Dude, MicroStrategy went
Yeah, it's
from
just called strategy now.
270
You're right.
up to it was in the 400s. You know, it's at 415 as of today. It's up 22 points today. And
Yeah.
it's leveraged on Bitcoin like crazy. So when Bitcoin runs, this thing just goes bonkers.
Yeah, and that's their whole strategy. That's the
It's up
strategy.
it's up
Yeah.
76% in a month.
Good Lord, yeah.
Dude.
And that's better than Bitcoin. Bitcoin's up 25%. So for the folks that didn't do the math on it, it's roughly what, 3 times?
Yeah.
Yeah, 3 times levered. And he might have done some things, but
Dude, it's up
basically
90% in 6 weeks.
yeah.
These are crazy
Yeah,
numbers.
That's crazy.
But people were scared when that money supply, wasn't where it was, and people were pulling back out of these investments, and that's why the stocks dropped, and now the money's flowing back.
Yeah, no, you're right. And I mean, being levered long on Bitcoin's fine as long as you don't get called. Hey, that's the game. Like, how likely is it that Bitcoin gets to 60K? It got kind of close recently.
It did.
I mean, don't get drunk on these prices, everybody. Like, literally,
it can be back down 20% tomorrow. I mean,
tomorrow, and it could be that fast. Like, you're never ready for it, and it just happens.
Yeah.
It's like the Starks.
Overnight.
Winter is coming. You don't know when, but winter is coming. Like, it's coming. So yeah, I don't know if I'm long master or strategy. Is it strategy now? I know they.
Well, the ticker
strategy.
is Master MSTR.
Right.
But he changed his name from MicroStrategy to Strategy officially.
Yeah, officially. Got it. Okay.
He's not micro anymore. I mean, his company's worth tens of billions. He's not very micro at this point.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. God, that guy's crazy. But I don't know. The
strategy's
if I'm
working.
master.
It's working.
It is working for now. What happens when he gets called? Like, let's just say Bitcoin goes to 60. Let's say it goes to 40. Let's get crazy.
He can't hold. He doesn't have enough. He will not get enough people investing to keep it. He will have to sell.
I've not seen anyone. I haven't dug into this, but there was an article from one of the people in that Real Vision group saying that his weekly payment for his position against his public shares, right?
Yeah,
would cost $500 million a week, and his business, like his actual software business, makes like 400 something million a year. So, like, how would he be able to pay that premium?
He wouldn't. He'd be bankrupt.
He'd have to sell his Bitcoin.
All of it.
I don't know if he'd have to sell all of it. He's got a lot of Bitcoin, brother. And people don't know. He's got hundreds of thousands of Bitcoin.
But his average price is like 66,000 or something.
Right. He'd sell it at a loss. Carry that forward. Maybe ride the storm out. I mean, at those prices, 40,000 Bitcoin, what is that? That's 1,000 of Bitcoin a week for 400 million. So, 100 Bitcoin. That'd be 40.
Either way, so he would be sitting there selling it at a low, and he had to buy it back as it went up. I mean, he wouldn't have. I think he's just done at that point. No one would trust him. He's getting people to lend him money at zero interest. That's not a thing after you've been bankrupt.
Yeah, if that's true, if that's what the numbers are, he levered up almost $40 billion.
Yes.
So 500 million seems reasonable, and I'm not long that, but I am long Bitcoin. If people ask me, is a fund manager, like, should I buy MSTR? I explain that dynamic and just let them know that it's a levered play on Bitcoin. But every time you add leverage, there's risk. There just is. There's no free debt. There's always going to be risk.
Well, I asked you and all my Bitcoin expert friends, and you guys gave me good advice. You explained it, and I put some money in both. So I have some coin, and I got some strategy.
And, you're doing better than me because I don't own strategy, right? Like, I just don't. Actually, I'm not legally allowed to, thanks to the SEC. Mr. Gary Gensler, glad you're gone. Either way.
There's so many investing rules. You know,
Oh my God.
let me
Oh
talk
my
about
God.
something. I'm
Yeah.
reading some of the books right now by Rich Dad Poor Dad, and just thinking about how we can invest in certain things as accredited investors, and everyone else is left unable to invest in that stuff. I understand the reasoning to protect people from investing in risky schemes. And if you're not a smart investor, you will absolutely get scammed, might be the wrong word, but get in a bad investment and be upside down on it and be bankrupt or something. That can happen way too easily. But at the same time, you have to forego investing in high growth opportunities.
Yes.
And I see this dichotomy. They're talking about it in the book right now that, the young author is meeting with his rich dad, and he has to understand when he comes back from this war that he can't invest in these same properties as this guy because he's not accredited. So his goal now is to become a sophisticated investor. So once you have the knowledge and the experience, then you're allowed to use excess cash in those investments, regardless if you meet the minimums. But I feel very lucky to be above accredited status and be able to do some of these investments. But it sucks that I could share some amazing idea with someone and then they physically can't do it because they don't meet the minimum qualifications, and there's no way around it.
It's honestly very bad. Like I would love to take $5,000 from my parents or my sister or very simple things.
People can't invest with you if they're not accredited. Isn't that correct?
Correct. Yeah. I mean, I can't do that. I can't say, "Hey, mom, just do that." I can't.
No, we don't want to go to jail for that.
It's
Or
crazy
get
like
fined.
that.
But it doesn't make
You
sense.
get fined.
But your
Yeah,
mom can buy not only Bitcoin, she could buy the riskiest crypto assets in the world that are
yes,
losing 99%, but they can't
yes,
invest with a smart fund manager like yourself. And
yeah,
that
yeah.
just
An actively managed
blows
fund.
my mind.
It's crazy. It's crazy, man. And the only way to invest this is how I got into this position. The only way to invest pooled money is through a fund. Like legally, for me to make a business to do it, because I got tired of driving to people's homes, literally, to help them. I was like, let's just pool it. And like I
Yeah.
had to start a fund. I had to deal with the SEC. I had to file all my exemptions.
Yep.
The world I've been thrust into is crazy. And then you find out that you can't do anything you thought you could do. It's like, why can't I just take $5,000 from my folks? Just write me a check and I'll manage it. Like no big deal. Like, no. It's a big no. Every lawyer I talk to, and I'm like, that's really messed up. Like, why can't I do that?
Is there any way around that? I'm just curious. Can they invest as a business or is it that still not an option or?
There's these look through rules. So if an entity is on your limited partner disclosure every year, they at any time can look through that and do an accreditation check on all of the members of that entity. And
Got it. So you have to be accredited inside the entity. I wasn't sure.
Yeah, and the other way to do it is basically stand up a parallel fund, but it's a different filing. So you're only allowed to have one fund with one strategy. You can't have the same strategy across multiple funds. And there's 3 types of elections under the 403 filing for a pooled investment. There's the I think it's the 3, the 7, and the 9. Then basically I can have 1,999 qualified purchasers, which is the level above accredited.
Yeah.
I can have 99 accredited and I can have 35 unaccredited. But it's a whole nother filing, it's a whole nother thing that you have to do. And it's just a lot. And it's really
expensive.
riskier. It's expensive and it's risky. And I wouldn't charge them fees, so I wouldn't make any money on it. So it's kind of like a later down the road thing. But it's the SEC. Just I think it's offensive. If you don't have $1 million outside of your primary residence, you're too stupid to analyze a project and decide if it's worth your family's future.
That's what the government thinks. That's not what we think, but the government
Yes.
says that.
Yeah, we're actually explicitly making this podcast because we don't believe that.
We hope people can learn and make smart investments by using these ideas that are not actual recommendations. But yeah, to be accredited, you have to make $200,000 a year, $300K a household, or have $1 million in the bank. And, a lot of people don't do that.
Yep. And if you want to do even more things, you got to have 5 million, make 500,000 or 600,000 together. Like,
Is that even 1% of the country? I don't even know.
no, I
It's
don't
not a
think
lot of
so.
It's not a lot of people.
It's not a lot of people. So I don't know what the SEC. There's better ways to protect people. I don't think that. I will admit some of the things they do. Basically, it's like, hey, you shouldn't do this, but if you disclose it, we don't care. I believe in that. I think that's a good policy. That is actually all that RFK is trying to do with Maha. He's like, I want you all to know what you're eating. I want if
Yeah,
like you don't
I
have to
like that.
remove the ingredients, but you have to disclose to the American people what these things do. So he wants general surgeon warnings on all of the food that has red dye, the oils, and they're like, I'm not doing that. And he's like, I
I mean,
don't
that
care.
could be just as
Like,
bad for you as smoking a cigarette. I don't know.
it's worse. I
Yeah.
guarantee it's worse. So it's like
So there
we
should be
should
more
be
warnings
told
and
that.
more, thinking. I just got a loan recently on investment property, and all the disclosures you have to go through, stuff like that.
Yep.
There could just be more standardization on some of these investments to help people understand them, and compare them. Like the APR on a mortgage, for example. That's like the kind of de facto you can compare anything against that, no matter what the terms are. But
Right.
there isn't really that for investments that I know of. So if you could
No.
understand quickly, any fees, average growth, loss potential, stuff like that quickly, then you could make a smart decision, accredited or unaccredited, and
Yeah.
that would help people rise up.
The problem is the SEC doesn't get into reporting. There's no standardized
Yeah.
reporting. There's standardized math, like internal rate of return is a formula that
Yeah.
right, like there's some standardization in that regard, but in terms of how you disclose that data, it's not, and how you report it, I guess, to the government, it's not standardized in that way.
And you can't look at a stock and see the level of risk. Like maybe at
Yeah.
some indicator, the PE, but just because the thing has a high PE doesn't mean it's a bad investment. It could mean that it's just
Right.
exploding with growth potential.
Yeah. Yeah.
You
People are
know,
pricing in a
when
future
people
they
didn't
can't
invest
see.
last year in Nvidia because they thought that it was too high, and then it doubled. Well, you missed out. So I
Right.
don't steer away from high PE. I used to have it more in my head, and some stocks that are just crazy high PE, not making any money. Yeah, I'm not super into that. But at the same time, I think there could be a way that we could standardize some of this stuff to get more people comfortable with some riskier potential investments, and that's where the money is to be made. Like, if you're only able to invest in things that are producing 5% a year, but inflation is growing by 3%, you're never going to make any money. Or if you're too, or if you can't, if you don't see the opportunities and you think you can keep it in the bank, you're making no money.
Yep.
And then here, if you're accredited, you're thinking 10, 20% is the minimum I should be going after.
I'm not even looking at a ppm less than 30%. It's a lot of reading. I have one. It's 92 pages. I'm not even starting that analysis until there's a 30% advertised return, because I know they got that audited. I
Yep.
know a third party said that was actually 30%. That's why I can say my audited returns only on these casts and things. So, like, if they disclose 30%, I'll look at it. But I mean, that's the bare minimum. And that's only a good real estate operator. They can get 30% very
Yeah, you got to
consistently.
be solid.
Yeah, you got to be solid. That's my mark. And retail gets stuck at what, a CD at 4% all the way to a index fund doing 20%, 25%. Like,
Yeah, last year you get
now
25% in the S&P.
that's great. Like that is the best it's done since I think 2000s. The .com, boom. I think was the last time it pulled those kinds of numbers.
I think
The average
maybe
was 12%.
maybe 2009, 2010 or something like that on the rebound.
Yeah,
There was
yeah.
a really big pop back then.
I mean, they cut rates to zero, brother.
Zero.
They took an adrenaline, like that scene from Pulp Fiction, right into the chest.
Smashed it.
Yeah, they were like, revive! It was if that didn't work, we were screwed. Like that had to work. They were in emergency repair for a while there.
Well, I hope there's
I
more
hope
opportunity
we
for people to get into some of these investments. And it's like, if you don't have any money on the sidelines, you're not going to be able to put it to
yeah.
work. So you got to find a way to, get some money, borrow, beg, put it to work. Now is still a good time to invest. Yes, stocks are rising. Yes, crypto is, going up right now, but I think there's so much bullish potential just ahead.
Yeah, I was listening to Jensen Huang talk about how he could see 10, $20 trillion companies in the next decade from the productivity boom of AI.
Of course.
Um,
His
if
included.
everything gets
NVIDIA, just to
yeah,
clarify.
yeah, yeah. I mean, I'm sure he's shopping his book, but
I saw
still,
something about the smartest CEOs in the world the other day, and I forget all the details on the ranking of it, but it had a lot to do with their linguistic skills and how they spoke
mm,
publicly and whatnot.
yeah.
And Jensen from NVIDIA, #1 in the world.
Wow. And
That
he's
dude
such a
is
nerd. I
impressive.
love it. I love it. He's
And
such a little nerd
number
too.
number 2 or 3 was the CEO of Google DeepMind. He's pretty impressive too.
Yeah, yeah.
They're working on some pretty crazy things over there.
Man, it's going to be exciting these next 5 years. I
But
couldn't be more
Google
bullish about it.
stock took a massive bath just the other day, and the reason is because Apple announced they might be rolling AI into their Safari browser for search. So yeah, there was an
Yep.
interview with Eddie Q. He's like their top guy on that side of the business, and he was talking about a lot of different things, but mentioned just that. And I mean, Google stock went down over 7% just from that sentence. I mean, that amount of value is
Yeah.
insane.
Browsers have so much capture, brother,
Yeah.
and they have hundreds of millions of users. Like you can just print money on a new service, a new thing.
I mean,
And
we're gonna see what happens though, because Apple, is getting $20 billion plus a year from Google, sending people, you know, to Apple when they're doing, using Google on their iPhones and stuff like that, and the government might be saying here in a second that they can't do that anymore. So interesting case. So the government won that case,
for
but
sure.
they lost a big case just yesterday that Microsoft is able to buy Blizzard Activision, the big company that makes Call of Duty and a bunch of those other titles, because it's not going to
Yep.
hurt cloud computing and cloud gaming, they said. And I think that's the right call. I mean, I think you should be allowed to buy up things in your space. It's a natural fit. Some businesses don't even do well running on their own, and they almost need a partnership in that space. So it almost makes sense that they'd roll under, into the Xbox cloud computing and gaming. And you're a big gamer. What do you think of that?
I think I don't like Microsoft or Apple. I'm a Google maxi. I love Google. I wish Google had gaming stuff. I don't know. I don't like consolidation across any sector. I'm basically a libertarian. I believe in competitiveness. I think that gives the best user experience.
Yeah,
I, th- but I also don't like government oversight. So, you know, I shoot myself in my own foot.
those are kind of head to head right there. I
Yeah,
see.
yeah, yeah, and we had a guest that knew a lot about that stuff, and she was totally right about that. Um, yeah, I guess in general, I'm a big fan. I played World of Warcraft most of my life. I love Activision and Battle.net and that whole suite of games. Overwatch, StarCraft, Diablo. I'm a huge Blizzard nerd.
Do you see any issue with
I
them operating inside the Microsoft umbrella?
Oh yeah, I don't like when they got bought by Microsoft, or have they got bought?
It's now approved that they're allowed.
Got it.
Is the
So
deal? I think
they
the
made
deal's
a
done. It's like a $69 billion deal or something like that.
Yeah, when they moved Activision into Battle.net, my gamer experience went down very bad to where I started playing on Steam. It's too many games. The load times are bad. Call of Duty is like a terabyte and a half, so when it updates, it can crash your computer. It's ridiculous. They don't know how to build something.
Wow. That's a
Um,
huge file.
Oh, dude, yeah, Call of Duty, yeah, it's disgusting. It takes a day to install. Um, it's crazy. Like, I'm not even kidding. You can go click
If you have a
download
gigabit
today.
Ethernet connection, it takes a day. If it's not that, I don't even know. It could be weeks.
It's literally over a terabyte. I have an external hard drive just for Call of Duty. Um, it's crazy. So I
If
don't
anyone
know.
out
I
there
just
needs external hard drives, I'll do a little plug for OWC where I work. They make the best external
Here we go.
storage. It's
I
impressive.
believe that.
Super, super fast. The read-write speeds are beyond sustained. So if you are playing games, that's probably the right gear to go with.
Yeah, I would agree. I need a better one, but
I got you, bro.
I don't know. Yeah, I like it. Next week we're gonna have to dive into that. I'll be riding solo, right? You're out.
Yes, I am. Love to hear what your solo is all about. All right. Exciting.
Yeah, it's going to be market crypto. It's going to be fun.
Hoping for more green next week. Keep the green going, everyone.
Yeah. Yes, we need Crypto Jesus.
And make sure to comment on Crypto Jesus. Let us know what you think in the comments. Drop them like they're hot.
Yeah, exactly. Let us know.
We love it. All right, well, thank you, everyone, for tuning in for another exciting episode of Bullish and Beyond with Brian the Mac Man and JT Knows Things, the Crypto Jesus. Let's go.
Let's go, baby. See you guys.
Cheers, everyone. Have a great week.
Bulls. That's a wrap on today's episode of Bullish and Beyond. Remember, the market never sleeps and neither should your ambitions. Whether it's stocks, crypto, or just leveling up in life, stay focused, stay bullish, and keep charging forward. Keep your energy high and your mindset bullish. This is Beery the Bull, your AI co-host, Brian the Mac Man, and JT Knows Things signing off. All content published by Bullish and Beyond, LLC reflects personal opinions only and is provided for informational purposes. Please conduct your own research and discuss with your accountant and/or financial advisor before making any financial decisions. The information presented should not be taken as financial advice. We are not financial advisors. Nothing you hear, see, or read in our content should be considered as any form of financial, investment, or legal advice, or a solicitation to buy or sell any assets, or to make any financial decisions.